Dear ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our new online webinar program by Blockchain Turkey platform. I am Ahmet Usta, editor-in-chief of the Blockchain Turkey, and today we are hosting a special guest from Celo platform. Anca Bogdana Rusu is with us, and we are going to talk about their platform solutions and future vision. Dear Anca, welcome to our online webinar. We are going to talk about Celo, but first of all, could you please introduce yourself to our audience? Please reintroduce yourself again to our audience. Now we are okay with the voice.
Sure, no problem. Again, thank you for inviting me and hosting Celo on the webinar. My name is Anca. I lead the regional work for C-Labs, the team working on Celo for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And I also spearhead our public sector partnership efforts. I've been with the team for over 2.5 years now. So we were about 10 people when I joined. And before that, I spent over 8 years at the World Bank and IFC working on financial inclusion and digital finance in Sub-Saharan Africa, Latin America, and Eastern Europe.
For something different. Thank you, Anca. It's a pleasure to meet you. So you're presenting Celo, and could you please explain us what is Celo and how you describe it?
Absolutely. Celo is an open blockchain platform that aims to make financial tools accessible to anyone with a mobile phone. And its mission, as it's been shared with our community, is working together towards shared prosperity. Inspired by extensive research that our team has done in emerging markets and developing countries, anywhere from the Philippines, Tanzania, Kenya, Liberia, all the way to Latin America and Colombia, Argentina. Celo has built a mobile-first blockchain platform alongside a suite of financial tools that really are accessible to anyone with a basic smartphone. And in order to deliver on this promise, the Celo platform features innovative technology, a robust stability protocol capable of hosting an ecology of stable value currencies, and as of the past 6 months, an alliance of over 100 organizations from all over the world.
That's great. As you know, we are seeing very many different platforms, very different solutions for the blockchain technology. And at this point, what makes Celo different from the other blockchain initiatives?
Thank you for that. Absolutely. I think there's quite a bit going on in the blockchain ecosystem right now. And I'll start by saying that I think Celo has an amazing community and group of people working on it. But in addition to that, I think there is one thing that makes Celo unique is really its full stack approach, right? Not a lot of platforms have taken this approach. And so for us, it really has been the question of building all of the layers, building the Celo blockchain, which, as I mentioned, is an open cryptographic protocols that runs smart contracts in a secure, decentralized fashion. I'd also have to say that Celo blockchain has shared ancestry with Ethereum and maintains full EVM compatibility for smart contracts. In addition to that, or on top of that, we have the Celo core contracts that are running on the blockchain and comprise much of the logic of the platform features, including ERC20 stable currencies, identity attestations, proof of stake, governance. And then last but not least, we've also taken that additional step of building mobile native dApps on the Celo platform. The first of this ecosystem is the Celo wallet called Valora that really allows users to manage accounts and make payments securely and simply. And I think it's important because a lot of the dApps that are being built right now are web native as opposed to mobile native. And so the experience of the end user isn't as, honestly, as seamless and simple as it can be, right? And that is a barrier to adoption that we've made it our mission to solve.
So you have very great different options, modules, and solutions. And as we connect the dots, what is your vision? What is your what do you want achieve globally?
Oh, I think that's a big question. One of the things that drew me from the get go, from leaving my position with the World Bank and joining what was a 10 people startup team at that time, was this really strong mission of encouraging shared prosperity, which incidentally is one of the goals of the World Bank, as well as the Celo platform, right? Um, I think that at a global scale, we're all part of the team driven by this idea of building the tools that empower people to take advantage of the possibility of technology. It is building financial tools that work for them, um, being able to start transacting in a way that's secure and fast, and where the people that most rely on things as remittances don't end up paying um, in Africa, the fee for remittances is up to 20%, right? And so really that idea that communities know best what kind of financial products and tools they need, and giving them the tools and empowering them to build the solutions that help them amass wealth and assets and growth, is really what drives both our thinking at CLabs and the thinking of the wider community, including the people that joined the Alliance for Prosperity that CLabs is a member of.
So, as we are talking about a financial solution, financial product, we know that financial solutions are a part of the blockchain platforms, but blockchain is not limited with the financial solutions. On the other hand, we know that the big companies are getting in more interest into the blockchain solutions, focusing on the financial perspective. Facebook is one of them, and as you know, last year they announced the Facebook's Libra. Actually, it was an independent associated based in Switzerland. But on the other hand, we all know that Libra is a product of the Facebook. And we know that Celo is compared with the Facebook's Libra because you also want to achieve something in the financial solutions area. So, what is the main reason that you are compared with the Libra, and what are the main points that makes you different from the Libra, or make likely to your to the Libra? And addition to that, I want also ask that Libra is not successful at the moment. They are facing many different regulations, many different unlikely approach from the governmental institutions. And what is the reason that Celo is going to be successful, even Libra cannot?
Thank you. That's a lot to unpack into one question. So let me start. I think the Libra's announcements last year was in many ways a breakthrough for the blockchain community, because it came backed by such a powerful financial ecosystem. Corporations, it immediately drew the attention at very high levels. I was at a conference of central bankers the day that it was announced, and I will tell you, there's a lot of conversation and murmur around it. Um, Libra's initial stated purpose did make reference to financial inclusion and folks in making financial tools accessible to folks who don't have them. And because Celo, who started on this path, a little over a year before Libra came to be, had the same stated mission and purpose. I think for the folks in the industry, it became a little bit of a challenger type of situation. And I think that Libra has done a lot of good for the industry to push the conversation to the forefront with a lot of regulators in a lot of the traditional financial sector. I think and with that common stated goal, with the common stated technology that it's shared, which is blockchain, I don't think that there's actually quite a lot of differences between Libra proposes and what Celo proposes. First of all, Libra is centralized, right? It is to be the governance is to be decided in a centralized manner. There is a number of approved validators who have to stake quite a bit of money, to be quite honest, at least according to the initial plans, to be able to validate transactions. And that's simply not the case with Celo, right? Celo has, I think, close to about 100 validators right now. They're not handpicked. They're generally folks who believe both in the mission and have been really drawn to the technological innovations of Celo and rejoice being part of that community. So it's not something that C Labs controls in any way. And then I do think that unlike Libra, Celo is mobile first. So we've designed for interoperability with other chains, and recently have joined forces with the Sigma team who had built the bridge to Bitcoin and is a process of doing that for the Celo blockchain. But also, I think the way that our stability mechanism and our reserve works is just fundamentally different. It's true that as of recently, the Libra mindset about how the Libra coin would work has actually shifted from that initial composite index that they had initially proposed much more to, quite frankly, the Celo model of stable coins. But in our case, we have a reserve that can host a family of stable coins, whether they're pegged to fiat currency or to commodity prices, but you have a wide range of options. And I think from the technological perspective, and unfortunately I'm not an engineer to delve very deeply into that, there's quite a few differences between what Libra aims to achieve and what Celo aims to achieve. Now, it is true that Libra has been facing just quite a bit of scrutiny and in the year and a half since they've announced. And I think it's normal that any country, any central banker and regulator looks very carefully of what a big company, such as a project that's being backed by such a big company such as Facebook, can have in terms of impact and consumer protection. One of the approaches that we have taken, and here my bias of having worked in the public sector with governments and policy stakeholders at the World Bank for 8 years comes in. We've approached regulators from the get-go, even as we were doing research to inform decisions of how to build the platform. And this is where, for example, from our research, we decided to make gas payable in any currency that runs on the Celo blockchain to facilitate it for end users who wouldn't have to exchange back and forth. We similarly went to regulators and sat down with them to explain what our approach is and ask them to voice what doubts they have, what questions they have, and see how we can incorporate that in our research, in the decisions that we make for the platform, so that they feel comfortable that their citizens are being protected, that the privacy of their citizens is being protected, but also that, it's not going to be this sort of, operations where we come in, break everything, and then throw our hands in the air and walk away, but actually that we are very, straightforward and approaching the regulators from the get-go. Incidentally, I think in like 3 hours, I'm part of a workshop with the Alliance for Financial Inclusion, which is an organization of central banks and regulators from over 80 countries. Turkey obviously is part of that, to talk through how central bank digital currencies can work and the impact that they can have both on financial inclusion, but also on the anti-money laundering from the perspective of the regulator. And so we're constantly talking to them to make sure that this education piece is happening. And frankly, an honest conversation about there are risks, there's opportunities, let's test things together. Let's get you to a place where you're comfortable, like with any other technology in history, from the internet or mobile money. And let's move forward, because the users need this, and it's in everyone's best interest to do so.
Great to hear that. You already mentioned some use cases, but I want to get in deeper about the use cases. Could you please give us some examples of the use cases by the Celo platform? And you already have some pilots in different regions, I think. Could you give some examples, or could you share some experiences that you have experienced before on the application side?
Absolutely. Before I delve right into the use cases, let me say that, as I mentioned before, CLAPS is one of the founding members of the Celo Alliance for Prosperity. We have a very lofty goal, right? Shared prosperity is not something that one would ever achieve alone. And so our efforts from the get-go have been to bring together leading technology providers, nonprofits, mobile wallets, global investment firms that are building on the platform. And Alliance members, again, they're spread all around the world, from the Philippines to Uganda, Nigeria to Colombia. We have a number of them in Turkey that we're really excited to work with. And the reason that I mention is because these use cases have been built in a way that both they enable sort of the nonprofits to work with the technology providers and just really be able to solve the entire flow of funds, to make it easier for the end user to not have to jump through 20 hoops to be able to participate and be able to enjoy the advantages of this. We have what we call a couple of the main use cases are around saving money, payments with blockchain, sending funds across borders, give, which what we call humanitarian and development aid, as well as lending and earning. I'll maybe highlight 2 or 3 of these. With remittances, again, I think it's something that it's interesting because it's so relevant for so many people around the world. The value that the people are paying in fees for remittances can be very difficult. At this point, I have to do 2 to 3 bank transfers if I want to pay from my Romanian bank account, my US credit card, and I'm somebody who's incredibly connected compared to others. The fees are still way too high for most people, and with the transfer of funds on blockchain, obviously that can be reduced both in time and cost. One of the use cases that I really wanted to highlight is a COVID relief program that we've ran recently in Asia with the Grameen Foundation. And it's a project that actually encapsulated, I think, about 6 to 7 alliance members. And that was so great to see them working together. Basically, we had a big donor who was interested in providing funds in the shape of restricted use vouchers that could only be used on groceries and pharmaceuticals to female-headed households. We're talking several thousand households that received this. And so obviously here you have 2 aspects of blockchain that are really interesting. One is the programmability of funds to be able to restrict the use. So you code the smart contract to restrict the use of funds for those categories that are designated by the donor. And then in the back of that, you have a dashboard that tracks the fund disbursements and is giving visibility to the donor to see what wallets the funds went to. Have they been used at the approved shops or not? And then once they've been used at the shop, the tracking stops, right? Because then it's the funds of the merchants and they're able to use them as they see fit. And it was fantastic to see. We've worked with, in the country, in Asia that we've worked on this, we've worked not with the bottom 20%, but with the sort of in terms of income, but that 20 to 40% bottom of the pyramid. And it was fantastic to see that we had over 98 success in people getting onboarded remotely. This was in COVID lockdown that it happened. So everything was done remotely. They were able to understand, use the wallets, make the purchases. And the feedback that we've gotten was frankly very, very positive, right? So conditional cash transfers for COVID or otherwise are a big area for usage for blockchain and the programmability of digital currencies. Another one that I'm personally very proud of, because I was very involved in making this happen, was our Resilience and Livelihoods program, where we have worked with one of the UN agencies, and we'll give more details once we're able to talk fully about that, creating a blockchain-based mobile micro work application that really gives anyone in the world with a smartphone the opportunity to earn money from the safety of their home, right? The International Labor Organization estimated that about 80% of the global workforce has been affected by lockdown measures. And not everyone, unlike you and I, are able to work from their computer and still do their job. And so one of the things that we've been looking at is, how are you able to meet that demand for work with the really high demand that it is on the AI training market, right? The AI training micro tasks market has been close to $12 billion this year, is projected to double by 2023. And providers such as Appen, who was our partner in this, or Amazon Turk, are always looking for more contractors to do the work. And the work is very interesting because there's 10 levels of difficulty, from very simple labeling images. Is this a bus? Is it not a bus? That help trains algorithm, to much more difficult tasks. And so even somebody who's not very digitally literate can do the work of, labeling a receipt or labeling an image. And what you're able to do with here is, first you have the application that now can reach the billions of people who don't necessarily have access to a computer, but they all have smartphones. And you integrate it with the mobile-first cryptocurrency as payments rails to reduce transaction costs and reach places that were previously underserved. In our test, we've been able to reduce transaction costs by up to 98%, depending on the places where this have been tested. We're currently working on scaling this up in a number of places. And we have interest from both governments and international NGOs on adapting this in a way that they can provide work safely from the home to folks who may want it. Another project, and I'm going to quickly two more. One that we have done, and we've done with the World Bank, and it's actually this narrative of blockchain encourages bad actors. Blockchain is an issue for compliance, and what we have actually done on a project with the World Bank was, the World Bank has very little visibility of what happens to the funds that they send to governments once it leaves their treasury, right? And so what they wanted was to test how a dashboard to track transfers on chain with document verification for disbursements in digital currency would work, because then you would give them visibility and audit capacity for downstream fund spending. The report for that project is to be published very soon, I think by the end of this month. And so it's great to see, right, that this tracking and tracing ability that public blockchains have is something that brings a lot of light and a lot of tools to regulator in terms of anti-money laundering, preventing it, but then if it happens, being able to prosecute that. And it's actually the focus of a hackathon that we are running right now with the UN Office for Drugs and Crime in East Africa, of building tools that help fight corruption on blockchain. And then last but not least is one that I'm particularly excited about. It started by the request of a small government in Latin America, or small country government, it's not a small government, about how could government stimulus vouchers could be built on blockchain. And what they were looking about is similar to being able to use some of that smart contract programmability features that the Celo blockchain has to deliver conditional transfer vouchers. But one of the things that they were particularly interested in, and aligns really well with how the monetary policy at Celo works under reserve, is they wanted to test the implementation of demurrage to encourage stimulus spending, right? Demurrage is the opposite of interest rates. It's basically when the government gives you $100 a stimulus and says, in order for the stimulus to work, you need to spend the money. You can't save it. And if you don't spend it within a month, then there's a 2% fee. And then next month, there's another 2% fee, right? Because what we see in terms of crisis from a monetary policy perspective is people tend to spend less. And so because they tend to spend less and they save, the crisis gets bigger because there's no money in consumption, there's no money going to the businesses. And so the interest of a lot of the stimulus programs is give money to the consumer so they can pump it back into the economy, and with the confidence restores, the funds can keep flowing. And so this is one project that is actually very closely linked to a couple of others, that are around community currencies. We've seen a lot of interest of different communities and local governments who are looking at how can I encourage the people in my city or the people in my county to invest in the businesses that are part of the county, or maybe to invest in female-led businesses or minority-led businesses. And obviously all of this is possible if you're dealing with money that is programmable. And we'll have a couple of announcements coming up around that soon. I don't want to divulge too much because I'm going to get in trouble with our legal team. But it's one of the projects that I'm extremely excited about.
So great to hear all of those applications, pilot programs. And we are talking about actually digital onboarding, know your customer process, preventing money laundering, anti-money laundering, EML, and also digital money, the money which has a end of life due to a date. And all of those actually are the core parts of the finance and banking sectors. So, what are your perspective or approach to work with banks, financial institutions, and another question according to this, blockchain looks like a miracle tool that can solve all of those problems without needing banks or other institutions, without any central organizations. Do you think that in the future banks and the other parts of the conventional financial system will be useless due to blockchain solutions?
That's a very loaded question to ask. Let me start with the second part of it. People have talked about the death of banks since they appeared with, right, in the Renaissance era with the Medici family. Everybody has been talking about banks are going down ever since. And what we find is that while the traditional financial sector tends to move a little slower because they're bigger and they have to comply with a lot of rules and regulations, they, they're actually pretty savvy of adopting the technology when it works for them. In the U.S. alone, over the summer, the regulators allowed banks that are licensed by the U.S. government to do two things. One, be able to hold the reserve of blockchain projects that have fiat reserves, and act as custodians for cryptocurrency. Now, before that happened, there were 3-4 major custodians in the market. All of a sudden, the regulator opened the doors for the banks in a whole new business, right? The banks stayed for a long time very far away from anything that's blockchain and crypto related, but now all of a sudden they're at the center of it. And if once they start learning, and there's a number of big names, big banks in the US that have voiced, that they're putting together a team to understand how they can best offer services of custody and reserve holding for crypto projects. Current custodians charge a very high margin to deliver the services that they do, right? That's a big market in which current banks are getting in. But I think in addition to that, right, we talk a lot about saving and lending on blockchain. A lot of the blockchain companies are technology providers. And I think for C-Labs, right, we will continue to help securing, together with others in the community, the Celo network. We will continue to build products to show what can be built. We will, be pioneers in some of the use cases, but neither us nor the members of the Celo Alliance for Prosperity can do everything, right? We are looking forward to working with telcos on mobile money issues. I think, banks are definitely starting to be engaged in this conversation. So I don't think I think this is blockchain. What it does is really it enhances the impact that other financial services and tools can have. Right. And I get a lot this question around, will blockchain displace mobile money? And if we think about just money and their characteristics, you think about, durability, portability, divisibility, limited supply, acceptability. And when you make the transition from cash to digital transactions with mobile money, you improve on some of those characteristics like durability and portability of money. And obviously, there's very important aspects to improve to, and studies have shown how much these contribute to financial inclusion. But then when you make the transition from mobile money to digital currency, you take additional features around portability for cross-border transactions, acceptability, because interoperability is still a huge pain point for the mobile money industry. And then you add programmability on it, right? And so I really see the role of blockchain and digital currencies as taking the revolution that technology and mobile money have brought and further enhancing it to be able to include more people. And think even as a bank who's trying to lend funds, being able to have people's history of financial transactions on blockchain can do such a great job in substituting for folks who do not have a credit history, right? Automatically, you have a credit history that's immutable, and you can pull on to make lending decisions. Or you can embed in your loan conditions to make sure that the funds that people borrow to buy a house isn't being spent on, a deluxe vacation in Bali, or I don't know, right? So I actually think that blockchain will enhance the way a lot of these traditional providers do business. And I will also say, I don't think blockchain is a miracle tool. I think there are a lot of things blockchain can potentially do, anywhere from value chains to ensuring, university diplomas to financial transactions and digital identity. Those hypotheses need to be validated again and again. And I think that it's great that we're seeing an inflow of companies that are working to make this happen. And so, yes, I don't think that the financial traditional financial providers will disappear. And we are even, as we speak, talking to some of them to educate them about how blockchain can positively influence their business, and exploring projects together.
Great. So, as a final question, I want to ask your plans for the Turkey. Do you want to achieve something in Turkey, or do you have any active projects? Could you give some information about that to us?
Sure. And I'm glad you asked this because, yeah, I think Turkey holds a very special place for the Celo community. Obviously, there's just a lot going on in terms of blockchain in Turkey, and we see quite a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of developers, and a lot of projects that are present in the country. We have right now a country lead in Turkey, Meltem, who's been building both the awareness and the work with current partners in country and regionally, honestly. And we want to continue investing in Turkey. I think it's a fundamental country to be part of for the ecosystem that exists. And I'm going to take advantage shamelessly to make a poll, and anybody who wants to learn more about Celo or interested in working with us, please reach out. We'd love to talk to you. Clearly on the questions that you've asked, I think we have three big pillars of our engagement in Turkey. One, it's education and hackathons. I think it's really important to build the future generations or the next generations of developers on blockchain. It's such a new technology, and it's important that students and developers get access and information about the most interesting or the best platforms that are out there. So Meltem is actually leading the conversation with various partners in country to organize hackathons, but not hackathons that are abstract, but rather, that tackle really current life problems, right? How can you foster financial inclusion in Turkey? How can you use the technology of blockchain to respond to emergency crisis situations, like allocating funds after an earthquake? How to create economic prosperity using community currencies? I think those are very pointed topics for the hackathons that we have in conversation with our partners. Another one is money transfers and international donation to and from Turkey. Obviously, you know this better than I do. Turkey has a very big diaspora. A lot of students from Turkey study in Europe and other places. There is a need to be able to facilitate those transfers, and it's really important to have them be low cost. But one very specific project that we are really proud to engage in is with the Smart Villages project with Idea Universal. It's an NGO based in Turkey. They operate in Africa to create sustainable solutions in African villages as an alternative to cash and aid programs. They finance themselves mainly from Turkey, and I think is fantastic. And they're looking to integrate donations in Celo and Celo USD to create sustainable villages together throughout the continent, and being able to add that financial layer to their existing smart village projects. And so that you'll be hearing more about that soon. And then last but not least, and I left it last because it's one that I'm really passionate about. One of the alliance members from Turkey is Good for Trust, which is a community currency project. They have a e-commerce platform where people buy and sell sustainably produced goods and services. And what we're working for them is really about being able to build a community currency on the platform that really brings that sustainable aspect that the community is focused on a step further. And would love to come back in the future to tell you how each of these projects have been going, what we've learned, what worked, even the things that we haven't worked and we've learned how to do better on.
Thank you very much. And we have one question from our audience. Hasan Özkul is asking, is there a zero knowledge proof implementation on Celo platform for the regulatory compliance?
I don't know if it's already been implemented or it's in works and expected to be implemented, but it's coming up. I would need to check on that, but that's definitely part of our roadmap.
So, dear Anca, thank you very much for attending on our online webinar and all the information you shared with us about the Celo platform. Dear ladies and gentlemen, today we hosted Anca Bogdana Rusu, Regional Partnerships Director of Celo Platform, and we get very enlightening information about the Celo platform. Please don't hesitate to get in touch with us if you have any questions or want to get in touch with the Celo platform. And we will keep having new webinars in the upcoming weeks. And please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube and social media channels. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Anca.
Thank you.
See you later.